This FedGov Today program is sponsored by TrackVia. On this edition of FedGov Today, cyber scorecard success at the TSP.
Technology is one of the largest parts of our budget annually, and we are in a mode of continuous improvement. On cyber, we're very proud that last year we were a 5x5 FISMA, right? We were top of the line on all of our cybersecurity activities.
Jim Kaplan of the TSP on FedGov Today in just a moment. Federal programs are still running on spreadsheets, SharePoint, and systems built with old technology. That creates more work and slows things down. TrackVia Government's a workflow modernization platform that lets agencies and prime partners quickly digitize program delivery, field services, compliance reporting, and operations, delivering secure audit-ready workflows without lengthy implementations. Modern, mobile, mission-ready. Learn more at trackvia.com/government. A couple of big metrics are on the upswing in the Thrift Savings Plan. Two of them are at all-time highs. Jim Kaplan's Director of External Affairs at the TSP. Jim, welcome. It's great to talk to you again. Participation rate and full matching rate, bigger numbers than ever before. What is causing the blowout, do you think? Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much, Francis. I think we get the message out, but also the default now for folks to join in to default into the TSP as new employees, as new members of the armed forces, and then to default at that full matching rate of 5% probably helps some of that. But it's really people being aware of their financial futures and making plans for the future. And here during our busy season, we see a lot more calls, a lot more folks taking the time to sit down and figure out how they can plan so that they can one day retire with dignity.
Is this the busy season because it's tax season?
I think so. Obviously, a lot of folks reach out to us about their tax forms. And earlier this year, we sent out 1.6 million 1099-R tax forms, along with annual statements to everybody and notices about required minimum distributions for the year to over 300,000 participants. So a lot of things are going out. A lot of folks get their financial house in order in anticipation of filing their taxes. So it's a time where we get a lot of calls, a lot of requests for documents, and really have to be on our A game to make sure that we're taking care of everybody when they need the support.
All right, here's the number, one of the all-time high numbers I referenced that kind of boggles my mind. Average wait time for the thrift line in February was 11 seconds. 95.3% of calls answered in 20 seconds or less. It takes me 11 seconds just to push the button on my phone when somebody calls me. What is going on there that you're able to get that to such a low number?
Part of it has been our transition to a managed service system over the last few years. So we contract with outside folks to maintain our call center now, which means they have metrics for their success if they want to meet their contractual obligations to answer in a timely manner. And so that means that they can add people during the busy season and bring people on and transfer them to other duties when it's a little bit slower. It's a little bit harder for the government to flex personnel for seasonal changes. And so by working through this process, managed services really allows us to meet the needs of our participants at any given time.
You have a pretty high satisfaction rate with the thrift line, too. How do you track that? How do you go about asking folks? Is it just at the end of the call, will you take a survey kind of thing like we see on other call-in lines?
We do that like pretty much everybody does, of course. We also send out follow-up emails, and we do regular quarterly and annual surveys as well. So, but that is mostly from, identify at the end were you happy or sad with your call type of information, or following up with an email immediately while it's fresh in your mind.
5 big points from your Office of Technology Services at the TSP. Cybersecurity maturity, supporting agency operations, improving agency IT, providing quality IT service, and running the OTS business. What gains is your IT organization making, and what are you attempting to make both for internal people and for participants in the coming year or so?
Sure. I mean, technology is one of the largest parts of our budget annually, and we are in a mode of continuous improvement. On cyber, we're very proud that last year we were a 5x5 FISMA, right? We were top of the line on all of our cybersecurity activities. Our CISO is one of the leads for all small CISOs in federal government. That's our Chief Information Security Officer. We are very focused protecting our participant beneficiary accounts and protecting our network, and our data is one of our top priorities. And we are continuously working on ways to improve that, improve technology. We also look for ways just to leverage to support our workforce, as any agency would. And so when we go through some transitions, we try and figure out what's the easiest way for us to refresh equipment, what's the most efficient way for us to make sure everybody has access to the tools they need to carry out their jobs. Our chief information officer, head of our Office of Technology and Services, Jason, came on last year when our previous CIO retired, and has really kind of taken that next step, building on the success of his predecessor to make sure that we are on the cutting edge and that we have the tools we need to support our participants.
Like everybody and his brother, artificial intelligence is part of the road ahead for your team. 3 points I see here: experiment, fluency and literacy, and increasing digitization and automation are the 3 main points that your team is going after. What are the potential uses that your team has found for artificial intelligence, Jim?
Sure. Well, like many agencies and like many people around the world, we find ways to make efficiencies for our personnel. So if you have a job that you regularly do, you have to review a report, you have to cut and paste something in every day, you have to send out regular emails, and maybe you're a technical person, need a little help with your writing. I've got people on my team that run the draft of their email through our AI system before they send it out to Congress to explain what's happened with a case for their constituent. So we find ways to use tools in regular everyday lives, tracking things, looking at what's coming in. And then, as I've mentioned in the past, our record keeper uses it to summarize calls, review transcripts, make quick transcripts so that our people answering the phones and can get back to answering the phones quicker, that 11 seconds you talked about earlier, because they're not taking time to type something up when AI just listened to along as it was they're having the conversation. And it tagged not only what the person called in saying they were talking about, but all the topics they talked about, so we can have a full record to make sure we're addressing all the concerns of our participants.
I want to go back to what I talked about at the beginning of the conversation, and that is some of these numbers that are hitting highs that you and your colleagues have been aiming for a long time. You have 3 strategic goals that we've talked about in the past, and I want to bring them back. One is, the first one is improving participant retirement outcomes. Second, providing top-tier defined contribution services to participants. And the third one is functioning as a high-performing agency. I'm looking across the targets and the thresholds that you have here, and you're just blowing out a lot of these numbers. Again, what's behind this, and what are the actions that you and your colleagues are taking to hit some of these, and which are some of the ones that you think are most important to participants?
Sure. I think it's just the attitude of the agency. We know that our job is to administer the TSP solely for the benefit of the participants and beneficiaries. That's our mission statement. It's on the wall. Everybody here is focused on it. We're a small and lean organization. As I've said in the past, we come in under budget because every dollar we don't spend is a dollar we don't have to take out of our participants' accounts, right? We can invest as much as we can for our participants to help them retire with dignity. That is our sole focus. And so each of our offices is looking for areas of continuous improvement. What can they do to bring efficiency into the work they're doing? How can we modernize? How can we use those tools, like you were talking about AI, to improve our contracting, to improve our customer service, to improve our oversight of our contracts with external vendors? So we're constantly trying to figure out how can we improve. And I'll say, those metrics that we discuss at our board meetings, we tighten them up every year. They don't necessarily just there they are and we beat them every year. If we beat them, we're looking to make them stronger and figure out how can we challenge ourselves to constantly do better. Brittany Borg, our chief risk officer, who heads up our Office of Planning and Risk, really works to figure out where can we make improvements. We've used a number of nonprofit organizations to come in and review our processes and really figure out where are areas where we can improve and where can we succeed. We're proud that customer service always comes out really well in those, and a lot of the work we focus on is internal support so that we have the tools we need to meet the requirements of our participants.
I think of all of these goals that your team laid out, the one that stands out to me most, Jim, is the participation rate in the blended retirement system, because when I was talking to your predecessor, Kim Weaver, about the blended retirement system, a year or maybe 18 months leading up to its implementation, the numbers that your team was talking about then as, boy, it'd be really great if we could ever get to this, you're way beyond those numbers already. I'll give the examples that stood out to me. The percentage of active duty blended retirement system participants deferring 5% or greater, contributing to get the match, is the target is 80%, and you're at a touch above 90% on that. And I know it's the default, and I know people have to opt out if they don't want it, but I don't recall in those conversations that anybody thought you'd get to that 90%. I think you expected at the time a lot more folks to say, I just need to keep my money, because it's a lot of younger folks that are signing up and not really thinking about their retirements.
Well, this is one thing we've been part of in a greater picture, which is the idea of financial literacy. And I know my kids going through schools got classes on it that I don't remember getting when I was younger. And so a lot of folks spend the time to talk to their children, to their students, and of course the soldiers, airmen, seamen, and guardians in the military are talking to those new recruits saying, hey, take that money, put it aside. You have an opportunity that previous generations didn't have to build for your future. It used to be that in the military, if you didn't serve for a full 20 years, when you left, it was only what you set aside. But since blended retirement systems have been stood up, the employer provides a contribution for everything you put in. I think we see those wider attitudes with what we've seen from this administration about trying to provide with young people or with folks whose employers don't provide a match, an effort to follow what the TSP has been doing with federal employees and with the military, which is to make sure if you have a match, you take advantage of that. And even if you're only putting a few $100s away a year for those who aren't bringing in a lot of regular income, that can add up, because $100 now is worth $1,000 10, 20 years from now. And so putting that money in now, compound interest, I think financial literacy has taught young folks today, I need to start planning for my future now.
It's good to see. It's good to see that folks are taking advantage of what's available to them. You have a new chief investment officer at the Thrift Savings Plan since the last time you and I talked.
We do. We've had a number of transitions over the years, and our most recent chief investment officer, or CIO, which makes it fun with the chief information officer acronym, retired in February. And so Mike Giroux, who has been with the agency for more than a decade and for a long time now as our deputy CIO, was selected through a very rigorous process. We had some really great candidates come in. But Mike has led a lot of our initiatives here, including the L funds and the modernization and expansion of the L funds in recent years. He has a wealth of experience not only here in the private sector, but he's an Air Force Academy graduate who knows about service. And we talked about that blended retirement system. We love the fact that we have so many veterans that work in our leadership and across the agency, because they've committed their entire lives to serving our nation. And he's just part of that continuation of commitment to service. So we're glad to have Michael in that role.
Always great to talk to you, Jim. I appreciate your insight into what's going on at TSP. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Francis. Enjoy the spring.
You can learn more about the TSP on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. The next FedGov Today podcast is coming Thursday. Business is booming at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The commander of Space Launch Delta 30 and the Western Launch and Test Range at Vandenberg will tell you about it. I'm Francis Rose. I'll talk to you then. Thanks for listening.